Chuck, Chuck, how
Yo,
you doing?
chilling, man.
Good
You
to see you,
know,
brother.
likewise, man. I'm just trying to get ready. I forgot that we're having snow tomorrow,
Yeah, I heard.
so which means I gotta wake up early and go grocery shopping. So I'll get caught out there
Yeah,
because I gotta go shovel later.
that's
But
the worst part.
yeah, it's
See,
horrible.
when you're a kid, you don't have to worry about that. You just go out and be free and happy. But now,
Oh
nope.
yeah, yeah. See, we own this, so we have to take care of outside.
Got you,
So
got you.
it's not like, I miss those days when you're like you're in your apartment and you're like, you look out there and you see like the super or the landlord doing it, and you're like, I'm going back to sleep.
Yeah, man. I was actually just thinking before we got on the last time we all were around each other, and I was trying to look for the pictures and I found them. It's from dang, what was it called? Mocha Fest in
Oh,
2019. It
wow.
was somewhere in the city. I think it was like close to the water, and it was I think it was like an indie. It was like an indie thing, right?
I think so. Yeah, it was. Yeah, I forgot exactly. Yeah, I think that was one of the last things that I went to. I forgot what the event was, but I know it wasn't Mocha. I think it was like Mocha related or something.
Something
Or
like
was
that.
it Mocha? Yeah.
I know there was a
But I
lot of stuff going on.
Yeah, it was a whole bunch of stuff happening there. Yeah, it was like, but I think that was one of the last events that I with people and
Yeah,
stuff.
yeah. I
Like,
think that might have been one of the last like handful I went to before this happened. You know what I mean?
right,
Um,
right.
so in regards to Bounce, I want to jump right
Hmm.
into that. Bounce
Oh,
to
okay.
me is probably one of the most viscerally stunning art styles I've seen, and
Oh,
I
thank.
want to know. Yeah, seriously, I remember seeing that one fan art you did too of Letty from Love Care Country. That was
Oh yeah,
amazing.
yeah.
Her walking through the fire,
Thanks.
that was insane. So I wanted to ask you, where do you draw your inspiration from?
Oh, damn. I watched. Well, I mean, when I was growing up, I obviously read a lot of comics. So I used to read a lot of Marvel and everything else. But when I got to a particular age, I used to read a lot of independent stuff.
Hmm.
So when I was in junior high, I read, the black and white Ninja Turtles,
Yeah,
which got when I was old enough to actually venture outside of East Flatbush and like take the bus further a little out to where comic book stores were in white neighborhoods in Brooklyn.
yeah, yeah.
Like, so, and even then, that was in its own adventure because now you ain't worried about the hood no more, but you in white folks' territory, and then you got to worry about them being crazy with you, and then
Hmm.
And I remember going to the comic book store, seeing Ninja Turtles, and I was like, "Oh, this is amazing." No, this is before we're not talking about like the cartoon. This is
Yeah,
before
the OG ones. Yeah,
OG, like they were killing ninjas, blood all over the place. This was not kid friendly at the
yeah.
time. And then while I was looking through the bin, I stumbled upon this one comic called Nemesis the Warlock,
Hmm.
which was and at the time it's like Eagle Comics, and then I think it was an American brand that had distribution rights for 2000 AD. Nemesis the Warlock was a 2000 AD character, and I went and got all their comics, which is Judge Dredd, Slain, ABC Warriors, and I just threw myself into that whole universe. So the artwork, and especially like for back then, I think I was like maybe like 10 or 12. For back then, it was my introduction to a lot of people that we know now, like Alan Davis, that used to draw X-Men back in the day. Alan Moore, this is like some of the stuff that he used to have, like, he used to write for 2000 AD, like way back in the day, before V for Vendetta, before Watchmen, before any of that stuff. And it introduced me to all those things. And then in no, I think, no, my first freshman year in high school, I always kind of knew what anime was,
Hmm.
because I had an idea, but I saw um, Fist of the North Star for the first time. And this is like 89, 90 in Brooklyn. So there was no like There was no
Yeah, you don't.
streaming.
Yeah,
There
yeah,
was,
you don't have that. Yeah, we didn't have that then.
so we used to get these tapes, these bootleg tapes, and we would watch them all the time. And this is
How on
like we
earth
had
did you get bootleg takes of Fist of the North Star?
because it's Brooklyn, bro. You had a friend that you were friend. Like, yo, I saw this cartoon where this dude got punched, his head blew up, and you're like, okay, I want to see it. So he would bring it, and it was all like, all the tracking was messed up, it was bad quality on VHS. And you're sitting there and you're watching it, and you're like, oh, yo, what am I watching? It was all in Japanese. We didn't understand a lick of what was happening. We didn't know none of the names of the characters. And then one dude knew it, and he was like, it's called North Star. And I was like, oh, snap. So then I had other friends that, started hooking me up with tapes, and we finally got the name Fist of the North Star. And I used to watch a whole bunch of stuff, and that kind of changed the game for me because I went from wanting to draw like superheroes to like more complex characters. Something that wasn't just a cape-toting, I wear my underwear outside my tights type characters. Right. So I just wanted to do something a little bit different, which was cool. And because the anime at the time had like such weird, even though some of it was weird and crazy, in its own right, but it was outside of the box, and it totally attracted me to it. So I just kind of kept up with it. So that was some of the main inspirations for me, growing up. And then, as I get older, my taste changed. I still love anime, but I'm not going to watch people get blown up in little pieces after getting punched in their face. Well, I mean, I do watch One Punch Man, but that's different.
Right. Which is a crazy show in and of itself.
I love that show.
Yeah. It's funny that well, not funny, but it's interesting that you say as you get older, your tastes change. So would you also say with your artwork and the stories you want to tell, have you evolved from when you were drawing back in the day until now? Like, what's changed for you significantly in that way?
Oh, yeah. I mean, I remember years ago, I used to have a story called DSX that was like my ode to the post-apocalyptic genre. And it was my way. It was like kind of like my Fist of the North Star. You had one lone black man in the wastelands who had special abilities and stuff and everything. And, I even did a little animation for it, and I put out 2 books for it. It was cool for what it was, but it was, as I got older, I found myself getting tired of trying to tell these stories that I felt that they came from here, but at the same time, it was like, I want to do like what, this character in this other anime did, but I want to do it my way, and blah, 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 and all this other stuff. But as I started, learning more about writing, about creative writing and just art in general, I just wanted to do something a lot different that was outside of that. And that's how I came up with Bounce. I took a situation that I already knew about, working as a bouncer for about, 10, 12 years in the city. These are stories only I can tell, and and at the time, when I was doing the stuff I was doing back in the day, I used to do cartoony anime type stuff with it. I mean, I used to work in animation, so I used to have that very loose line, but I kept everything very serious. But Bounce allowed me to like step outside of that and do comedy. Half the stories I used to deal with half the things I used to deal with at the bar were just pure comedy anyway. So it made it, I started doing like, various facial features and expressions and all this stuff. And I started like, I went from like looking at anime art books to like Warner Brothers old school Looney Tunes books, to get inspiration, which is like.
That's quite a transition.
Yeah. So that's one of those things, man. It was crazy, but it was a fun process because, like, even if I go back to that serious style, now I'm carrying a new wave of expression that I've learned doing that, and which now allows me to do even more and evolve even more with that style. So,
have you brought any of those characters with you? Do you still have little homages to your previous works and your newer comics and stories?
Yeah, I kind of I try to make like a Bounce cinematic universe. So I had this other comic that I did prior to Bounce called Triborough Tales, which is another like slice of life comedy. A couple of years before Bounce, and we had a whole cast of characters that lived, throughout the tri-state area, which was Brooklyn, the tri-borough area, I should say. It was Brooklyn, Queens, and Manhattan.
Mm-hmm.
And all these characters used to hang out at bars and everything else. And I think I even drew a bouncer that kind of looked like me at one of the bars in the previous comic, which is pretty much the same design as the bouncer now.
Right.
And I had these, and then as I was doing Bounce, I had those characters from the previous comic come into Bounce, and then have the whole thing collide together. I don't know how I'm gonna bring like the post-apocalyptic character into Bounce, but I'll figure out a way. I did have a couple of ideas, but I'm still playing around with those. But sometimes I kind of tend to want to go back and do them, but I want to make up new things too.
Yeah. I do find sometimes, even for myself, I get stuck in the whole like, oh, I should remake this or redo that, And like you said, it's better to just move forward, because then if you get stuck, you get too comfortable.
I always. Go ahead. Like I was just gonna say, the last thing is, I always feel like I tell people all the time, it's like, how do you get better at what you do? Is like finish the first thing. Like, if you don't like it, but finish it, and it's done and it's out of your system. That way, the things you didn't like with the last drawing that you did, the newer drawing, you bring that energy with it, and it says, okay, I didn't like the last thing I did. Let me see how I could fix it in this new thing that I'm about to do now. But I found that if I don't finish a thing, then it leaves me on edge, and I can't complete the next thing. I mean, sometimes you'll scrap something, but then, you take a different approach to it. But you want to know in your head that you completed the whole thing first,
Right. Could you touch on the on edge feeling you just mentioned?
Well, it's like you felt like you didn't complete something. It's like I don't know what's the weird way of saying it. Like I don't know if like I cook a whole bunch of stuff. I don't cook great things. I'm not a chef, but
right.
It's like if sometimes I find like if I'm in a rush to cook something, and because I'm hungry, and I'm like, I'm gonna make this chicken, I'm gonna add maybe a little bit of seasoning here and there and everything. It doesn't taste that good.
Yeah.
It's like because I'm trying to rush it out there, and I feel I ate, yeah, but it didn't feel complete. But I know if I took my time with it and I completed it the way it was supposed to, and even though it wouldn't come out as flavorful, but I know if I did it took the time and added the right spices, added the right things, it would taste a lot better.
Yeah.
And I could just, and if I didn't like the way it tasted then, I can, next time I make the chicken tomorrow, or if I make the steak, I'm like, what if I add this kind of spice? What if I do this other thing and everything? That's weird. But
no, that's a great analogy, and now I'm kind of hungry. But but that's good. So with Bounce and you being a brother making comics, especially online, we're in a space where we're probably one of the most dangerous creators in that world. Because I know you've come across a lot of controversy yourself, and you faced quite a bit of racism for some of the things you've drawn. How do you deal with that? And what do you say to people who want to get into that sort of commentary and are afraid to?
Well, look, I used to, when I first started doing it, I used to argue a lot. Mm-hmm. But I realized a lot of these people, you're never going to fix the world over a Facebook or Twitter comment. It's not going to happen. You're not going to change anybody's mind. Something I learned a long time ago. And I also realized a lot of these people have strategies when they do this, and they have agendas. Mm-hmm. So it really doesn't matter. Whether you engage with them, it doesn't matter. If you do it, you could do it as a sport if that's what you want to do. I choose not to do it anymore because, I can't physically punch a comment. I've tried, but this is the thing. It's not. it doesn't make any sense because these people come to fight. So I just totally ignore them, or I just tell them to, I'm sorry can I curse?
Yeah, go ahead, go for it.
I just tell them to shut the fuck up and get off my page.
Yeah.
Like I'm not here for this. The fact that you have time to sit and waste, like this, you see this motion with the thumb? It's a very easy motion. That's what you do when you keep scrolling up. Mm-hmm. If you see some shit you don't like, you just keep doing that and you're good. But people got time on their hands and they got their keyboard in front of them and they have the luxury of not seeing you eye to eye and saying that disrespectful thing to your face.
Right.
So to me, when I see these people do that, it's the coward's way out. Now, sometimes they could be hurtful because they could say some really messed up things because they have all day to sit there and think about it. But at the same time, when I'm like, and that's not saying that I have tough skin. It's just that I know where this comes from. Mm-hmm. It's different when someone says something to you that really hurts and it digs deep. They say something about your childhood or your family or something like that. And it's like, God damn, man, that hurt. But when it's like, oh, you nigger, you look like a monkey and your characters are fucking blah, blah, blah. I'm like, dude, I know where all that shit's coming from. It doesn't really matter.
Yeah.
I know why you're here. You're here because you can't be in front of me to say it. And you feel safe behind there. I know if I was at a convention, if I had the same comic in front of you, you wouldn't walk up to the table and talk to me like that. And if you did, you'd regret it right away. Mm-hmm. So I tell people all the time, you'd be surprised what can happen when you have to look at somebody eye to eye and for you to be that mean to them.
Yeah.
When you see it, half the time people don't like getting into physical confrontations. You may see it in the street, but a lot of the times people try to avoid it at every cost possible. They're not trying to get into it. But social media gives people the ability to be cowards. Mm-hmm. Anytime they want. So because I know where that comes from, it doesn't bother me as much. In fact, I laugh at it. In fact, I call other people to come and look. Like, look at this one. This is hilarious.
Yeah.
But I think the one that was the funniest to me was when I was, remember that when Richard Spencer got punched in the face?
Oh, yeah.
And I did a comic about the bouncer punching Richard Spencer in the face. Mm-hmm. And like the various people of the alt-right have a problem. People don't realize that much how you see like black folks have like little, like we don't like certain people in certain parts of the community, mm-hmm. like they have their own. So you got the neo-Nazis don't necessarily vibe with the alt-right as much as people think that they do. So a neo-Nazi actually shared my comic. And
really?
He said, look, even the niggers hate Richard Spencer.
Dang.
And I said, I didn't know. I you know what? I left it alone because part of me was kind of like, yeah, we both hate him. And the other part of me was like, did you just call me a nigger? Like,
yeah, that's
what's
nuts.
going on? So that was really funny. And then the funny thing is there was a whole thread that happened with a whole bunch of neo-Nazis. Like, see, Richard Spencer ain't shit, blah, 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 blah. They know what's going on. Even the blacks know that he's a phony and he ain't shit and blah, blah. I'm like, wow. You know what? I'm just going to sit here and not say nothing and take down these notes and see what's going on. But yeah, it just gets, the one thing that does break my heart a lot though. See, I'm a dude. I used to work in an industry where I dealt with confrontation. So what breaks my heart is the way that I see them go after black women. Not because black women will just sit there and exist and these people will just go after them.
Yeah.
Like not even say anything controversial. Be like, hi, I'm a black woman and I like comics. Die! And I'm like, why? How did we get here?
Yeah, the anger is like ridiculous.
It's insane. I'm like, I don't know how, but I mean, I don't want to, because I can go on for like 3 hours.
No, I feel you. I could do the same thing too, man. It's nuts to just exist as, like you said, exist as a black person, black man, black woman, and just be at the ready. I feel like you always have to be on guard sometimes. no matter where you go,
Yeah.
whether it's online, offline, and it's just
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
it's just a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a lot, man. It's a lot when you deal with it. Because my thing is, I mean, I'm not a online really doesn't bother me because I already know what to expect, and especially with the algorithms, I already know like when I post something or I share a comic or anything else, I get it within the space of the circle of people, mostly Black people, people of color, people in the LGBTQ community. Like they see what I do, and I get all that positivity from it. And if I get a couple of comics here and there, it doesn't really bother me. But like but it can get really, really ridiculous.
Yeah.
When it becomes too much. And I think that's one thing, that's one thing that we some people have coping mechanisms with it. I cope with it differently. I'm not saying do it, just ignore it the way I do.
Mm-hmm.
Some people, I have one friend of mine. I know you know that artist Quinn McGowan.
Yeah.
Quinn McGowan. That's a sport for him. He will go after racists all day.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and then chase them offline, like to the point where they block them.
Yeah.
And I enjoy looking at it, but I'm like, I can't do that.
Yeah, that's not me.
It's too much time. It's too much time. I got too much things to do. I got deadlines. I got drawings to do. I got, it just sucks too much energy.
Yeah. With going back to the comics real quick, would you consider yourself, with some of the political satire you've done, would you consider yourself a political cartoonist?
No. Mostly because it's like, because of the way that Bounce is set up, it's about two best friends working at a bar in New York City.
Mm-hmm.
The conversations, at least when I used to work, we would just go in talking about things that happened in the day. Like, yo, did you hear what happened, in Washington? Like, yeah, that shit was crazy. And then, and then you have another person that comes into the bar checking their ID, and then you have the news is playing in the background, and the bar is like, yo, man, I hope Trump wins. And then that turns into a thing. And so when you see that kind of exchange that happens in real life, I just bring stuff like that into the comic. It's just the way that we deal with it with our witty selves.
Yeah.
That's basically what it is. I mean, I have my own personal opinions about the world and current events. And because the Bounce takes place, I'm sorry, in the current times, it makes it easier for me to just, bring in those beliefs and everything else, and then just give my definition of what's happening, or whatever the case is, or dealing with the racist dude or the homophobic dude that comes to the door, and how the bouncer would take care of it, and either with his fists or his wit. So like, that's what it is. But I mean, political commentary when it comes to comics, I mean, I've seen a ton of great stuff. Like, three of my favorites is anything Keith Knight does.
Okay.
Anything Keith Knight does is amazing.
Real quick, have you seen that show?
Oh yeah.
Okay, what did you think of it?
I thought it was good.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't think it was great. I think it there could have been a couple of different things that could have been done, but the overall premise was pretty cool.
Yeah.
I think it leaves a lot for growth for season 2.
Yeah.
I do know it got picked up for season 2.
But that's wonderful.
Yeah. I've met and spoken to Keith Knight plenty of times, so it's like, but it's definitely him. That's I know he had his hands in that. That's definitely his kind of humor. I think, that one. The Doonesbury. I don't know if you ever used to read Doonesbury.
It sounds familiar, but I'm not sure. Yeah.
It's an old school political comic that used to, like in the 80s and the 90s. And he used to make a lot of fun of Trump. And the thing, he actually, when Trump became president, he had put out a whole book called Trump about all the comics that he did.
No way.
Making fun of Trump when Trump was working, real estate here in New York.
Mm-hmm.
His work is really good. And also Boondocks,
Got it, yeah. Got to give reference to that.
of course, that was, you know, growing up, especially in high school, seeing a little, you know, comic strip about blackness, about all the same things you and your boys talk about. That was like, yo, that's dope,
Hmm.
you know, and that's what it was. So I take reference from those kind of things, and I think they do it very well. You know, I'm more of a person just showing you the inside mind of people that work the nightlife and what we really think about what we call day walkers, people who walk around during the day and work normal jobs while we sitting here. We our 9 to 5 is really like 8 to 4 in the morning. Like
Right.
that's how we roll. So it's two different worlds. So it's like both worlds are clashing.
So
You
with
know.
all that
Hmm.
you've done this from my knowledge independently, correct?
Yeah.
Can you speak to the experience of independence or being an independent artist and how that can have great benefits and some of the caveats to that that might hold someone back?
Oh well, I mean there are pros and cons to doing things independently. Like, you know, one of the I'll start with the cons. Money.
Mm.
Money's a major factor. You're printing your own books, you're traveling, you're getting tables at cons. All these expenses they add up, and that can, if you don't have enough capital to do that, that could really bring down your productivity. Because you can sit there and make the content all day, but you know, if you can't sell it, then what is it for?
Yeah.
I mean, that's the major thing. The other thing is like the convenience of having to um, not worry about the business end and just worry on the art end, because you do have to wear multiple hats when you do everything independently.
Hmm.
Um, Now the pros is that you don't have anybody telling you that you can't do what you do with your art. You don't have a company breathing down your neck talking about, well, take this out, take that out. You can't say that. You can't do this. There's too many black folks in here. Where's the white representation? Where's this? Where's that? You know, you can't. You don't have that thing. You
Yeah.
you you have the ability to. This is your story. This is your style. You're telling it in the way that you want. To me, which is that's one of the biggest pros. Um, you have the freedom to say what you want. You have the freedom to create what you want, and you don't have to answer to anybody. The other pro is when you do finally make the money, it's on you.
Hmm.
You know, you're not sharing it with another company. You're not giving out percentages unless you're paying for other talent. Like if I'm doing the artwork and I pay a writer to help me write this thing that I created, you know, you give him or her their cut. Or if you're paying a colorist, or if you're paying, you know, someone to help you with the graphics or whatever, that's, you know, that's what that is. However you set that up, but you know, you're dealing with that money on your own.
Hmm.
Um, yeah, I mean, you know, and as somebody that's done both, I mean, I've worked both in independent comics and I've worked in, you know, the publishing industry. You know, I'm doing both at the same time. While I'm working on newer stuff for Bounce, I'm also working on a graphic novel for Abrams Publishing. Now, that's a whole different thing. I'm not, all I'm doing is art.
Hmm.
I'm not doing any writing. I'm not doing any graphics. I'm not distributing the book. I'm not responsible for sales. I'm just here to draw,
Yeah.
and you pay me, and that's just it. So there's that, and there's also people who, you know, when if you do get like a publication deal with something that you created, the publisher will take care of that for you. However, whatever percentage they're going to take out and whatever you agree with in the contract is what it's going to be.
Hmm.
And a lot of the times it's a lot. It could be more than 50% of what they're taking from you.
Yeah.
So, you know, but then again, you're just worried about creating and doing the book. You're not worrying about printing. You're not worried about, um, you know, distribution. You're not worried about any of that stuff. They're taking care of all that for you. But I think for anybody else who really wants to do it, I think you have to weigh your options as far as like, what exactly do you want out of this? You know, some people create a property and they want to give it to a publisher and say, hey, you take care of that for me while I just draw. I'm fine with the percentage I get. And if you're going to do that, you make sure your contract gives you set up a contract that gives you the percentage you're going to get, and you agree to it. Get yourself a lawyer, have them look it over, whatever the case is. But a lot of the times, even when you get caught with stuff like that, it's like companies are going to give you a contract with what they want.
Yeah.
You have the ability to negotiate. You do not have to accept it just because it's Image or Marvel or whatever. Well, Marvel doesn't do publishing like that, but like, or Dark Horse or somebody like that, you can negotiate. A lot of people don't think that, but you can. And a lot of times you'd be surprised.
And you got to be careful. You got to read that fine print, because look at what happened with Watchmen.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. You know, so there's a lot of different things to it. But I say overall, the one thing that but pros and cons aside, I do enjoy doing self-publishing for my own stuff, because I don't, it's mine. It's something that I created from here, and I don't want to be able to share that with someone that doesn't have, or a company that doesn't have the best interests that I have at heart. You know what I'm saying? Like I don't want to sully that vision with corporate nonsense. And if I do have to, it's got to be under my terms.
Right.
You know, and because I know what kind of terms I want, then I got to get somebody, a lawyer or whatever, to help me solidify that into paperwork to tell a company, all right, let's do this, but here's my demands. Here's what I want.
Yeah.
You know, but yeah, but overall, self-publishing to me, I find the freedom in that I really like.
Yeah, I'm all for that. And I really appreciate the fact that you have both sides of the coin to give that kind of insight, because you really have to, like you said, go with what you feel most comfortable with. Like if you feel like you can go with a publisher, that's fine. But if you want to go independent and have full control, that's also fine too. We're going to transition over to a couple of questions from the chat. Chat, if you have any questions, drop them in now, and Chuck is willing and here to do so. And while we're waiting, Chuck, you're a gamer, right? You play games?
Oh, yeah.
What's something you played recently that really just blew you away?
Oh, okay. Okay, all right. Three games. I just beat what was it? Control.
Ooh, I have that, but I haven't played all the way through yet.
Oh yeah, I played it all the way through. I mean, all the DLCs, everything.
Nice.
I went through it. Right after that, I beat Ghost of Tsushima.
Nice.
I think I got like 99% on there because I went ham.
Wait, I think I did see you post a clip of that in there on Twitter. Yeah. That game looks sick, man.
And the recent 2 games that I've been playing, I've been really busy, but I didn't play the 2 Resident Evil remakes, part 2 and 3, that came out before, I think earlier in the year. There was like a bundle where they sold both of them together.
Oh, right.
So I bought that, and I just recently went through 2 and 3 like straight.
Wow.
Like weekend, I was like, we're doing this. Now, mind you, I only did Leon's campaign. I haven't done Claire's yet.
Okay.
But then I went straight to Resident Evil 3 Nemesis.
Yeah. That's the one with the dude that has like the really crazy face. He's like stars, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
That's the one. But actually, what I'm waiting for, in fact, is coming out tomorrow, is Persona 5 Strikers.
Oh, I forgot about that. That's a Switch exclusive, right?
Yep.
Wow.
I think I think it's coming out on all the consoles.
Okay, good.
Yeah, I think it's coming out on everything. So yeah, I pre-ordered that because I'm a big Shin Megami Tensei fan. So like everything Persona, that's my life.
Your Persona's pretty dope.
Yeah, I love them. I loved all those games. So I pre-ordered that like about a month ago, and I'm just waiting for it to drop tonight at 12.
oh yeah, actually tonight. Yeah, that's dope. We do actually have a question from chat from Danterart123. She asks, "What is your most memorable moment from an event you were a part of?"
Oh wow.
Out the gate with the heavy ones.
That, it was interesting. I think there was a time where I'll answer it with more of a statement. Sometimes when you do this stuff, you don't necessarily you keep your head down and you're just about the work, and you put it out to the world, and you sell books at cons and everything else, and it's cool. You get to meet people, but you don't realize the impact of what that is, of what that does to a person, especially for Black folks.
Mm-hmm.
I think what it was for me was one year. There was this dude who came through, and he bought like all my books, and then he showed me his artwork, and I was like, this is some really cool stuff. He had like this awesome, really cool graffiti type style. And I was like, dude, your work is amazing. Like, honestly, you should have a table here and sell your artwork. He was like, well, I don't know what to do and everything else. And I said, look, I introduced him to the person who ran the event, and it was all good. And I think the following year I couldn't make it. Then the year after, I went and I went to go. I was doing a panel there. I didn't have a table set up. I went to go do a panel, and then I was walking by, and this dude calls my name, and I look at him, and I'm like, I know this dude. I can't put my finger on it. He goes, yo, and he's got his table and all of his prints and all of his artwork there.
Nice.
And he was like, because you told me I could do it, I freaking went ahead and did it.
That's amazing.
And I was like, all right, man, excuse me for a second. And I was like, but you just don't know sometimes that, like a few moments. That's why, like, a lot of the times when I'm that's what I do miss about cons. A lot of the time, I get to meet a lot of amazing people, and we get to geek out and talk stuff. If they have questions, about like some of the art or some of the stuff that they're doing, and you can pass that energy of confidence, because it's not like I'm a whole, big bag of confidence myself. At times I doubt myself a lot, but then, when you try and encourage people, it hits you.
Mm-hmm.
And I think those are some of the best moments. And that was one particular moment that I could remember. There's been a few others that are like that, but and I'm a softie when it comes to stuff like that. So that's some of the best moments for me.
That is truly amazing. Chuck, we definitely love having you on tonight. Oh, we do have another question. Awesome.
Oh, okay.
Genesis asked, what are some tips and tricks for creative blocks?
All right. Now, I go through this, I don't call them creative blocks. I kind of I usually try to find other things to draw. There are times where I'm sitting there like I don't, I'm doing this one or two panels and they're not coming out the way they're supposed to, or whatever the case is. I go on Pinterest, and on my Pinterest, there's like a crap ton there's like a mix of everything. There's like fashion stuff, there's like comic stuff, there's like manga stuff, but I'll type in like afros
Mm-hmm.
and Black women. And then everyone that comes up, I'll just sit there and I'll have like an entire page just full of scribbles. And a lot of the times when you're not thinking about it, the thing that you were trying to, draw before that wasn't coming out the way that you want, it may just hit you because you're not thinking about it anymore.
Yeah. It's funny that you mentioned Pinterest, not to cut you off, but Will, we just had Will on, Will Focus.
Yeah.
Yeah, we just had him on last night. And he literally said he'd be on Pinterest too.
Yeah.
It's a thing.
Yeah, it's great. I love it. For reference, it's amazing. But like to go back to what you were saying about the creative block, I think, and also I think what a lot of artists do as well is they tend to put a lot of pressure on themselves. Like, I always got to be drawing. I always got to do this, and I always got to do that. Your art is going to get a lot better the more that you live life. Mm-hmm. Sometimes you just need to give yourself a day, and if you feel like you have that block, go do something, like play a video game, watch a movie, go out for a walk, hang out with some friends, and you'd be surprised how inspiring that is. There are times when I used to work at the bar while I was doing bounce, I couldn't come up with any ideas for it, and I was like, what am I going to do the next comic about? I'll go hang out with was working in the bar business. I knew a lot of friends that were bartenders. I'm like, I'm just going to go to the bar and hang out. And that night, 5 new ideas came, and I wasn't even thinking about the comic. 5 new ideas. I'm like, you know what? I had this conversation with my friend. That was funny. I'm gonna put that in the next comic, and all that other stuff. So, a lot of the times, we tend to put that kind of stress on ourselves.
Oh yeah.
Sometimes you just don't do that to yourself. Let yourself live and let yourself be good to yourself, and then it'll come to you.
Yeah, that's some really sage and dope advice. And as I was saying before, I really do appreciate you coming on with us tonight and just chopping it up with me real quick. Where can the folks, first of all, are you working on anything that we can hear about now? You got anything in the tuck development?
I'm working for Abrams Publishing, which is with Daniel Jose Older and John Jennings, on a book called Death's Day, which is about death coming to find her, their daughter. Death can be anything they want. And there's a whole bunch of characters involved. It's very it's like supernatural horror.
Ooh.
So I've got like a whole bunch of stuff. It's still being written. I've done a few pages and a few, designs for it. I can't release the artwork yet, but definitely talk about it. I'm also all I can say is I am doing art direction for an animation for a particular streaming site that you will see very soon.
Ooh.
It's only an advertisement for a particular figure that we all know and love. That's all I'm saying.
Wow, that's a lot of guessing we got to do. That's amazing,
I'll
man.
I'll probably tell you later, but
yeah.
So
that's awesome.
Yeah, I've been working on that, and it fell in my lap. So I've been working on that from the beginning of December all the way up until this week, nonstop, to make this thing happen, because the thing that I can't mention is coming out like next month.
Wow.
So
looking forward to seeing that.
Definitely.
Yeah. And where else can we find you across the internet? Socials, website?
You can find me on Twitter and Instagram all the time. I'll be there at bounce_comic. You could read some of Bounce on bouncethecomic.com. And if you want, you can go and buy some digital copies. I'm sold out of prints right now, but I'll have some more soon at gumroad.com/thebouncer.
Awesome. Well, Chuck, you have a wonderful night, and thanks again for coming through. And we definitely got to try to figure something out during this pandemic. Link all the artists up.
Definitely, man.
That's so important to have in an industry, right? Representation. And like you said, seeing somebody create something and feeling like you are a part of what they're creating, like seeing yourself within the game or movie or book or comic book or anything like that. And I think a lot of times